All right, guys, welcome to a home team episode of the podcast. Jason isn't opening us off because Jason is not with us today. Jason's enjoying some much-deserved family time in Hawaii, so hopefully he's having a good time out there with the family. We got Dennis, we got MDV, Long Island crew, for lack of a better label.
Oh boy,
this is the Long Island crew. It's a Mets crew too, baby.
Dude,
Mets first place, NL East. Right. Let's go.
Let's go. Tied for first place, best record in the majors with the Dodgers and the Padres.
9-1 at home. 9-1 at home.
You can't win as a Mets fan. It's funny. I was talking to Ariel about this yesterday, and she couldn't care less, but she kind of appeases me and listens. But I was like, they start out terrible, and you complain because they start out terrible. They start out great, and you're just like, when is it going to happen?
When is the train wreck coming? When is the inevitable train wreck coming?
How high are they going to lift me up until Diaz blows 4 saves in a row?
Mm-hmm.
But Francisco Lindor is putting baseballs on the moon right now, though.
Oh, dude, it's so fun, man.
The walk-off home run that he had the other night against Cincinnati. I know this is not a baseball podcast. It's officially a Mets podcast today, though. Francisco Lindor, that inside-out swing from the left side of the plate, man, he put that ball into the stratosphere. Mm-hmm. Is there a cooler feeling? What kind of feeling do you think is running through his veins at that time when he connects with a ball like that, puts it obviously in the deepest part of the ballpark, in a pitcher's ballpark, and just knows that it's gone and wins the game on one swing? That's got to be the most unreal feeling in the world.
He's had a few of those over his career.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I've never played. I played baseball senior year in high school. I was on the bench the whole time, so I've never really played baseball. But I just can't fathom something that clearly means so much to your team and the fans, and just staying as cool, calm, and collected as he does. I can't imagine that. And I know that that's what you're supposed to do, right? You run around the bases you've done it 100 times, but to actually be able to do that is fascinating and so cool to watch. As much as it's fun to have a Jesse Winker on your team that just goes crazy. That's also fun because, it rubs the other team the wrong way. It's that much better to have a Lindor that just trots around the bases. That's it. He's done it 100 times.
Who was the guy in Toronto who had the epic bat flip?
Jose Bautista.
Holy, those are on two ends of the spectrum. So Jose Bautista's bat flip was super disrespectful, I think, in some people's opinions, but it was a cold celebration for hitting a home run the way he was hitting them at the time. But Francisco Lindor, just the look on his face that he just knew that ball was gone. He knew that he did his job and nobody else was going to be able to do it like he did at that point, was so fucking cool. That highlight is unreal. Hopefully we can have maybe producer Liz bring that up, because this is now a Mets podcast.
This is a funny little Texas story, because no one loves Texas as much as Texans do. And it was the first year that we had moved out here, and I forget where I was, but I went into a bathroom, and where was it? A restaurant? Must have been a restaurant. And it had all this cool Texas memorabilia on it, and they had this huge do you remember when Jose Bautista got socked in the face by Odor? Odor's the last name. He slid in hard to second base, and he got clean shot, punched in the mouth by the Texas player. And they just had this huge printout of the guy with the Texas jersey just punching this other guy in the face. And it was don't mess with Texas. And it was pretty funny. I was it's a classic piece of baseball artwork here.
Yeah, there was so many people in the league that probably wanted to do that to that guy. It was so perfect. It was just perfect.
He was a pretty hated individual in baseball for his time in the league.
Showboating.
Not more hated than John Rocker, though. Remember John Rocker?
Oh,
if you were a Mets fan in particular, this is early 2000s Mets Braves rivalry. John Rocker was the closer for the Braves, had made some off-color remarks about Mets
super
fans.
Off-color.
Yeah, a little bit.
It was off-color for back then.
Yeah,
they were blatantly racist, not off-color.
Yeah,
I didn't want to bring up the comments, but
it was so bad.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Anyway, on one last kind of baseball note, and this will tie us back to some of the things I wanted. Well, something we talked about on the last episode. I sent you guys that clip of Pete Alonso running the bases. I don't know if you guys got to see it.
So unathletic.
And we were talking about this last episode for anyone that missed it, athleticism and running, sprinting specifically. And man, He might have made me look a little bit athletic there, rounding second base. But
What are
on
his
that
legs
note,
doing in that video, by the way?
His
What
legs,
how
his
do they
arms,
move like that?
I don't know.
He's unorthodox with everything he does.
He really
his
is.
Swing, the way he fields, the way he throws, like he does not look athletic at all.
His body.
His body, his face.
Oh,
Here we go.
So good.
Oh, look at this.
I hope everyone's watching on video. Look at that. Oh, right there, right there, right there.
It's all like right angles into the interior of his body. It's impossible.
God,
the celebration looked athletic.
Dude,
Yeah,
I was
the
going to
dive-
say, even
the
the
slide wasn't
celebration
bad.
afterwards, I don't know, man. Oh, so good. But Dennis, I think you're kind of the perfect one to kind of weigh in on this a little bit, because on the other side, I guess you would call it athleticism that it takes to hit a round ball with a cylindrical object 400 feet, as consistently as he does it, more than the average Major League Baseball player, is like out of this world, like what it takes to be able to do that. So I guess like what's going on there where, you can have some of the pieces so dialed in of what you would consider athleticism and some other pieces obviously like clearly lacking, or is he just like a one-on-one aberration and that's kind of just like some of his quirks?
No, I don't think he's one of one. I mean, I think there's a lot of people that
A lot of
have
examples in baseball.
Yeah, I mean, in any sport that have very specific skill sets related to the sport that they perform. And if you took them outside of that, due to whatever it is, just inherently they don't have that skill or they just haven't practiced it, they would look incredibly unathletic. I think you would find tons of examples of that, even at the highest levels of athletics. And on the flip side of that, you would have probably more examples of people that you could drop them into any sport and they would look like, even despite the fact that they haven't practiced it ever or performed it, they would come across as someone that can probably hold their own in that sport, So I couldn't tell you like the physiology of what's going on there.
Yeah.
But I mean, hitting a baseball requires hand-eye coordination, obviously some power, some speed, but it's a very specific skill. And I think the more specific the skill is in a sport, the less likely it is that they necessarily have to have all the other ingredients of athleticism to be good at it.
Well, baseball is kind of an anomaly insofar that the professional sport is largely based around skill and skilled positions and skilled roles, right? Like you do have 5 tool players who can do everything. They can field, they can hit, they can run, they can steal, they can hit for power, hit for contact. Those kinds of players are pretty rare. I think they're more common maybe today than they were a few eras ago in some of like the earlier league, in the earlier days of the league. But you can also get by in baseball by being really strong, really powerful, really skillful hitter and having zero other tangible skills, right? Like the designated hitter is a great example of a position that is largely just based on the fact that you can hit a baseball further than most human beings on the planet. And that's all you need to do. You don't play the field. You are not expected to run the bases that well. You're a subbed out on a steal, on any sort of need to steal a base. It's a very interesting professional sport.
Do you guys think there's going to be less of, because I'm trying to think, like Russell Wilson comes to mind. I remember Tom Glavine was like a really good hockey player. Like, do you think there's going to be less as we move towards, and me and Jason have talked about this a lot on our podcast, of like more specialization with kids growing up into one sport? Are there going to be less of these athletes who, like some of the examples I rattled off, are players that I know made it in one sport, but had been drafted in the other sport, had, really successful collegiate careers in other sports? Like they kind of got to a point really late in the game where they made their pick of like, this is where I'm going to go. But you could easily, Aaron Judge too. Like Aaron Judge was like a crazy basketball player, football player, baseball player.
Randy Moss, LeBron James, Steve Nash all had, opportunities to play.
Was Steve Nash hockey?
Steve Nash was a soccer player. Soccer player who was just really good at basketball. Hall of Fame
so
good at basketball. Hall of Fame good at basketball. Yeah, Dan, sorry to cut you off there.
I think for sure you're going to see less and less generalists and more specialists. It's happening at younger and younger ages. I'm already experiencing it with Hunter playing hockey. He's 7. He's not even playing competitively yet, but you already start to get the inklings of like, all right, this is his primary interest. He's kind of losing interest in some other things. We're going to continue to push him towards playing other sports. But then you realize like every single sport requires pretty much like a full year commitment now. If you don't commit to them year round, you end up losing a spot on the team, and then also just the financial burden of trying to keep up with that, like of signing your kid up for multiple sports where each sport is going to be $1,000 a season or potentially more, especially as they start playing more competitive. Then just purely from an economical standpoint, you kind of have to make some decisions and pare some things down. So like I kind of see it happening pretty quickly with him that like hockey is going to be his primary sport. And he might not play any other sport, certainly competitively, as he gets older. So,
well, it's an interesting issue because, like, to make it in any of these leagues, you have to be the absolute best in your community, right? You have to probably be the most standout player in your municipality, your town, your city, your county, your state. You have to be up there, and to get to that level, you really have to be extremely fucking good at that particular sport. And the earlier that you get into something and the more reps that you can get in on something, the better, I mean, I would assume the better you'd be at developing those specific skills and really understanding and learning the game. I think that it comes at a cost with general athleticism sometimes, like being able to do things outside of that particular sport, reasonably well. And also might come at a cost of maybe some camaraderie, some community, some diversity of interest. But like, even if you wanted to play at the high school level is becoming so competitive that like, if you're not in the travel camps or the summer camps or the things that are all feeders for these high school level programs. I remember this growing up when I was trying to get on the baseball team at the high school that I went to. The roster was already kind of picked by the time I showed up for my first day of freshman year, because they have a entry camp that you go to before school starts that essentially brings the most talented kids in to try out for the coaches. So they know all these people before tryouts. It's a really interesting issue. And like, I mean, if you had somebody who was particularly talented and you wanted to make sure that they got the best possible route to high school, college pros, I mean, as a parent, wouldn't you want to give them the most opportunity to do that? But then the downside is, you're isolating them in a way that is tough from the other skills or sports or people that they might meet.
I think the fine balance too there is just if you are putting all your eggs in that basket per se, just making sure that it's always because they want to do it. Because the worst thing that can happen is they've committed this much time to something, get burnt out, and now they're also very late in the game and doing something else, pivoting into something else. So I think that's the thing that also, and I'm sure, Dennis, you probably get this, and hockey isn't even something that like you've been like passionate about. Without, my kids being anywhere near playing sports, can feel that like, draw to wanting to like live vicariously through your kid, or like have his success in the thing, like, means something about, like, I'm so self-aware at how easy it is to get wrapped up in that world and that thing, that I completely empathize with finding that line between, being the dad that's like, hey, if you want to be good, these are the things you need to do. We need to practice. We need to be consistent, this and that, but also not pushing so much that it ever becomes something that they're not enjoying. So something that I know I have a lot of time to kind of have to get to that point, and also not a lot of time. Time flies. But,
you don't have that much time.
It's going to be like tomorrow.
Yeah, you're going to wake up tomorrow and
Well, it's an interesting conversation, man, because I think I look back at how my parents kind of brought me along in sports. I'm outside of fitness. I'm generally athletic across multiple sports. I can pick up nearly any sport and play it reasonably well, but I don't necessarily excel at any one sport. I was never the top of the heap. I was reasonably good at nearly everything that I did, though. And that was fun because I could have the camaraderie of many, many people and fit in a lot of circles and be athletic when we were playing, even stupid games like dodgeball or whatever, stuff like that. But then I never really got into something so heavily that like I excelled at it to the point of, taking it into, a big high school career or beyond. And I think that some of that is good. And then some of it you look at and go, wow, could I have done, one thing really, really, really fucking well and excelled at it and like made that my kind of journey? Or, was it better to, have this kind of smorgasbord of experience, whatever you want to call it?
Mm.
And I think that that's the thing, like that feeling, I feel becomes very easy to then like, well, you can't go back in time, but the next thing you could do is like, kind of shape this little life that, you do have some say in to like, man, it would be cool if you did this. Cause I know that for me, and this was more for like being completely honest, like more financial reasons, but I swam. That's the only thing that I did all my, like, I didn't play any team sports. It just like kind of wasn't in the cards, like logistically. And again, like all these sports cost a lot of money and we just didn't have that much growing up. So I never got to play any team sports. And I specialized in swimming and I did that in college and I was fairly good at it. But I think that I would have really enjoyed being a part of all these sports that kind of as a fan and watching, I always like loved so much and would have wanted more than anything else to like have been on the little league team and have played in high school and done all these things. And I just didn't get to do it. And it's not like regret or like whatever, but it's an experience that I feel I would have enjoyed and never had. So you're like, so like vested in like, oh, maybe we could do it like now as a dad, as a parent, but trying to get in front of like that, not in any way overshadowing just honestly what my kids want to do, because they might not want to do that. And that's going to be perfectly okay. And, I'd like to think that I'd definitely be able to like separate the two. But I think that in being self-aware and also talking about these things, because we talk about it on the podcast all the time, I just realize how easy it is. Like a lot of things, right? It's much easier said than done. Once the rubber meets the road, you're like, you can get wrapped up in it so easily.
Mm.
But let's, one last thing really is like, cause I think about this stuff a lot, even with, my own daily habits, my own training, my fitness, my nutrition, how I look at setting up my life the way that I want to live it. As an adult now with like full license and control of, what I do and how I do it and how often I do it. I've thought about this in terms of like, what do I want to be good at? Like, what do I want to put my time into to be good at? Because there's so many things out there that you could, pick up and then put down. And, is it cool to actually like develop a certain mastery around something, whether or not it's just doing like a body weight movement every single day and really like figuring out like, how do I move my body through space with pull-ups and push-ups? Or is it, poker is trying to figure out that game and how does the, more modern game theory fit into this and the psychology of the game. I just think that it's cool that you can make these decisions now and you can look back on the experiences that you had and then maybe pivot, maybe say like, yeah, I do want to dive into something more specialized and follow that headlong. Or, I want to continue this more diverse type of array of training or hobby type of thing. But I think about these things still for sure.
On that note, I really want to talk about the TH45 challenge. So this comes out on Wednesday, the last day in April here. Tomorrow, May 1st, we kick off the first in-app challenge in the Train Hard app. We're all super excited about it. There's going to be daily videos. There's, obviously the Train Hard tracks for you to follow. There's a bunch of nutrition resources. Like we all realize that nutrition is a big piece of reaching goals, both in the short term and long term. So what we wanted to do is really take out all of the guesswork, obviously on the training side, but really, really double down on the nutrition side, because the idea here is hopefully to have, thousands of men, honestly, joining us from May 1st to June 15th, which backs up really nicely to Father's Day and hopefully gives everyone the opportunity to really put their head down and sprint towards a good deal of progress. One of those things that I personally think about challenges a lot is usually they're not sustainable, right? Like you're doing some sort of stacking habits or some sort of, like avoiding certain foods, whatever it is, that isn't necessarily going to be how you're going to live the rest of your life. But I think
intentionally unsustainable.
Exactly. But the purpose that they serve is a jumping off point to, I think, make actual sustainable changes, because you might, make this much change and then you come back to a middle ground, but that middle ground is still a net positive to where you were before. And I also think that it's a really good way to like, hey, there's a date coming up that I want to feel my best and look my best. And it just gives you this end goal to like really put a good amount of work and take much bigger steps than you would have if you were just kind of like doing the consistent thing to get slow progress. So I wanted to go through with you guys kind of like the non-negotiables of the challenge, a little bit of the thinking behind it, because I think that even though it might seem very simple and it might even come off as like, well, this is already what maybe I'm kind of doing? Like, what's the purpose behind these being the non-negotiables? And what's the purpose of keeping it actually relatively simple and not taking like a, for an example everyone might recognize, like a 75 hard type of approach where you're doing all of these things for a pretty long time. So good place to start, MDV, because you were talking about, the daily rituals and repetition is we're all doing 45 burpees every day to start the day. So what's kind of the thinking behind that?
Yeah, I think, before we get into, one of the elements, let's just lay out like the exact parameters of the Train Hard 45-day challenge so that everybody kind of understands what's going on here. So we're doing, like Gabe said, a 45-day challenge. It kicks off on May 1st, and there's 4 non-negotiables that go into this challenge. 4. One of them is 50 grams of protein before 9 a.m. So we're asking you to prioritize protein intake, particularly before 9 a.m., getting 50 grams at least of protein before 9 a.m. You have a daily workout that we're going to ask you to do, and that can be a workout that you get from our Train Hard app. It can be the Train Hard Daily Workout, which is our GPP, General Physical Preparedness Program, or it could be our Flex program, or we have travel workouts on there and a whole bunch of other stuff in the app. The app's got a tremendous amount of resources. You are going to do 45 burpees a day, and that accumulates over the 45 days. And at the end of the challenge, that's 2,025 burpees total that you would have been done. And then we are removing alcohol completely from the equation across these 45 days. No one sip of alcohol, no touching it to your lips. It's completely out. And those are the non-negotiables for us for these 45 days. So to talk about that 45 burpee aspect of what we do, I'm somebody who believes heavily in like habit and routine and ritual as being a foundation for developing other areas of your life and starting with something that you can do, that you can accomplish. It's not super intimidating. It's not going to derail your training. It just takes a little bit of initiative and maybe a little bit of courage to wake up and do 45 burpees every day for 45 days. This is really one of these things that like, it's the consistency element of this challenge that I think I'm most excited about, because it will be easy at one point to say, oh man, I don't want to do my burpees today, or I forgot to do them this morning, so I'm not going to do them tonight and I'll just make them up tomorrow, or nobody will know and I'll just kind of skip today and I'll move forward. 45 burpees, realistically, a burpee is from the standing position, your chest and thighs touch the ground, you come back up to a standing position. It should take you realistically less than 5 minutes to do 45 repetitions of this if you're moving at like a moderate or moderately slow pace. Almost anybody in the world across their day could probably get up and down 45 times if they had to. Not almost anybody, but it takes some athleticism to do so. And if you can't do that, you should probably develop it. For us at Train Hard, man, what I want people to do is I want them to lock in for 45 days. And this is one of those things that you just click the button every single day across this challenge. Yes, I did these burpees. Now go and tackle everything else that you have to do that day. And that's why it's so powerful for me with these daily rituals. It becomes something that you can lean on, that no matter what else happens that day, you did this thing, you accomplished it. And now you have that win in your pocket and you can go on moving forward with some positive energy, some positive attitude. And I've been doing 100 push-ups a day since February 1st. I've done hundreds of thousands of push-ups in my life. I just always have been doing push-ups. Like, it's been a movement for me that I've really enjoyed doing all the way back to like before high school. And I just decided to keep this count going. And, it's not really derailing my training. I don't think the volume is impacting me physically that much. It's something that I enjoy doing. I do them very, very slowly and intentionally most days. And it just keeps me on track with all the other stuff in my life. It's a reminder for me to check the box. It's a reminder for me that I want to live my life a certain way. And it works for me. It might not work for everybody, but we're bringing a little of that into this 45-day challenge with the 45 burpees a day. So that's the reasoning behind that 45 burpee element to the challenge.
What I like about it, I think the power of it too is it eliminates all excuses from what truly was going to be the non-negotiable, which is work out every day, like do something physical every day. Because I know that for some people reading that is like, well, on Fridays, it's just crazy and I can never get like a full 45-minute, 60-minute training session.
What about rest days?
What about
blah,
rest?
blah, blah.
Right, right. So I think that it's just having like a very black and white grounding habit that no one should have any actual reason why they couldn't do it. Now, if there's injury, movement limitations, I think that,
Of course.
again, the heart of it is you're committing to something that is just long and like hard enough that it requires like a little bit of like you said, there's going to be a day, it's probably going to be multiple days throughout the 45 days where you're just
For
like,
sure.
I could really go without doing these burpees. But for some people that might be 30 push-ups, for some people that might be 20 sit-ups, for some people that might be like 3 minutes of nonstop jumping jacks. Like I think that like, again, the 45 burpees is what it's meant to be. And everyone that can do that should do that. But really at the heart of it is finding something that regardless of how little time, what chaos hit that day, how you're feeling, like you can get it done. And that just immediately checks off the box. Because another idea that like Train Hard's been founded on from the beginning has been this like never zero thing, which is like super simple in that, you know, an object that stays in motion is a lot easier to keep in motion than something that like comes to a complete stop. And I think that that to me is the most powerful thing about this, because even if you have a 3-day span, you're traveling, work, crazy, like unrealistic for you to get a flex session, a Train Hard daily session, which again, I would also challenge a lot of people that like you can easily cut the session in half. And I think everyone has 20, 30 minutes per day to get something meaningful done. But even if that's actually not the case, dude, you can do 5 minutes of burpees. You can do 5 minutes of push-ups and it should just check off the box of 45 straight days of literally never letting momentum hit zero. And for me specifically, I was talking to Ariel about this the other day, because I get up in the mornings and like, I in many ways, MDV fall completely in your camp where I have my ritual. Like I do like my little running mobility, then I'll go out and run. But how we're going to do it is I'm going to do it every day once the kids are up. And like, it's also an easy thing to like involve the family.
Oh,
like,
for sure.
Bring them into it. Like everyone can do some burpees, like make it fun, make it something that like becomes this little family ritual that you can do too. Even if, you know, whether it's your family or your spouse or your partner, whatever it is, isn't doing the whole thing. A question we get a lot is like, hey, like I'm on the path. I'm super excited. How do I get, you know, my partner? How do I get my wife? How do I get them involved? This is such an easy way to like, don't have them like do the whole challenge with you, but see if they want to be included in this like little part of it. And I think it's easy to underestimate the impact that can have. And maybe they don't join you even every day, but maybe after 10 days of seeing you do it every day, they do for a little bit. And that can be like such a powerful, magical turning point in their life, which I think, you know, goes without saying the impact that can have, because we're all doing the work. Like if you're signed up, I think you're many steps ahead of most people. But if you can have that impact on someone around you that you love and care about, I think that could be maybe the biggest win you get out of a challenge like this.
Dude, I want to turn over to Dennis in a second, but something that you said there was super powerful with this idea of I want somebody in my life to do these things with me, or like I want to motivate this person to do it with me. You can never force an adult to do something that they don't want to do, at least in my opinion, right? Like
Backfires
that's like
every time.
Yeah, it's the fucking ultimate hypocrisy of trying to force your will onto somebody else. The way that you get somebody to do something with you is for just fucking do it yourself. Like do it and show them that you're doing it. And then maybe ask them if they want to join. And if they say no, cool. Keep doing what you're doing and maybe ask them again in a few days, or show them that there's a way to do it that's not necessarily 45 repetitions of burpees at a breakneck pace. The cool part about this literally is that anybody in the world, even the most deconditioned people, could stand, put their hands on a counter, maybe push themselves back up to a standing position, maybe clap their hands if they want to. And there you have a really, really scaled down and adjusted burpee. And if somebody did that 45 reps a day for 45 days, they would be more capable of maybe pushing themselves off of an elevated surface like a counter, like a box, like the floor than they were before they started. So I would say do this challenge. If you have somebody around you who's kind of hesitant to do it with you, just start doing it and maybe ask them if they want to join it with them, with you. And if you're scared to do something like this, if you're like, man, I don't know if I want to do 45 burpees a day, or I don't know if I want to give up alcohol for 45 days, I would say just lock in. for 45 days and then have that stuff on the other side of the challenge. It's such a great opportunity to do this with probably hundreds, if not thousands of other men who are going to sign up and be accountable to themselves and the community to make themselves better across these 45 days.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing about it is that each piece of it, not just the burpees, it's all relatively simple stuff. And I know challenges can get kind of a bad rap as being like unsustainable and it has a deadline. It's going to end. You're going to fall right back into your old habits. But challenges should be something that allow people to build confidence in themselves, just in their ability to stick to whatever parameters are being called for, right? And so if it's too far out of reach as far as being achievable for people, then it's likely going to be like just it's going to be an exercise in futility for a lot of people because they're going to start it, they're going to get bummed out in their because of their lack of ability to maintain it, and then they're going to lose confidence in themselves. And so any challenge, I think the way it should be set up appropriately is something like this, where each piece of it is totally achievable, totally sustainable for a pretty long period of time, so people can build the confidence in themselves to then kind of parlay these habits into other areas of their life once the challenge ends. So yeah, and 45 burpees is, yeah, for some people might, like even for me, I'm pretty fit and I'm not looking forward to doing 45 burpees a day, quite frankly, but
I'm not really either, to be honest with you.
No. So,
really.
You know, you can relate to people that are looking at that as kind of a, you know, an insurmountable amount of repetitions, but it's like you said, if you take your time, if you make your way through it, you can get through them at any level of fitness pretty much, and then build confidence along the way and make it more sustainable as you go. So
I'm 100% doing these as strict burpees, by the way. I am not doing these as sprawl back burpees, down to the ground, fast burpee, 45 of like the quickest reps of my life. I'm stepping back. I'm doing a push up. I'm standing up, and then I'm just continuing that for 45 reps. That's the way I'm doing it. So if anybody out there is like, oh man, I don't want to slam my chest against the ground and like, you know, feel like I'm got copper lung. That's not what I'm doing for the 45 burpees. We're taking these pretty slow.
Super strict
burpees.
As you were talking, Dennis, you know what came to me too, and I think this is going to be super cool because I know people are going to have this experience, is if you're someone who the 45 burpees honestly are a little bit more challenging than you would even like to admit. Like you're kind of like, you know, these guys are saying that like, hey, this isn't too bad. Like you're at the point where like 45 burpees are you know, going to be a challenge. I mean, first of all, like absolutely no judgment, no shame. I think that like the whole point is to like improve where you're at. But I think the really cool thing is that if you do this, you're going to come to day 45 and you're going to be blown away by how much easier 45 burpees feel. And that in itself is such a cool fucking win. Like to go from like 45 burpees was like, that should not have been that hard, to just doing that consistently. Like even at honestly, and we want you on the Train Hard app, we want you doing a program that's not going to be, you know, we can argue about if it's sufficient training or not to see results, because I think that I'm making the point that you don't even need that much. You could just do the 45 burpees a day and you will improve a lot of your capacity and fitness. And I think that to me is the biggest just example of we all have enough time to move the needle in the right direction, or at least maintain where we're at if we built a hedge in fitness. Like one of the biggest things that I personally would like to dispel, especially now that like things are getting busier, the kids, like chaos, like I genuinely have a lot less time to dedicate to training now than I ever did. And I'm never going to stop. But the more that I'm just forced to be really intentional with my time, the more I realize that you don't need that much time to like, not only like just maintain your fitness, but like excel in things like, hey, I'm trying to break a 3-hour marathon. Like you can do that if you're being very intentional with your training and sessions without having to spend countless hours. And I think that the burpee example is just such a cool like microcosm of that exact idea, because 45 burpees on day 45 are going to feel a breeze compared to 45 burpees on day 1 for a lot of people out there. And that alone, I think, is a reason why people should take the challenge, commit, and just like, you'll be amazed by how much progress from a fitness perspective, body composition perspective, everything you can do in 45 days.
I think that's a good segue into one of the other topics that we wanted to talk about. Before we get there, sign up for the Train Hard 45 challenge.
100%.
Like, do the challenge. This is going to be an awesome opportunity to make some changes in your life with a very simple formula. 50 grams of protein, 45 burpees a day. You're getting a workout in every day. Ideally, you're trying to get some movement in early in the day. And then also that last one is, remind me, I don't have the thing in front of me. No alcohol, no booze. I don't drink. So that's not a huge one for me. But I'm going to give up something else in addition to the no alcohol. So 4 things, very simple. There we go.
Super simple, super simple. And just some quick housekeeping notes. The challenge is run free on the Train Hard app. You have to be on the Train Hard app, and then it's just included as part of that subscription. So make sure you get on. You can start with the 7-day trial. It's a perfect chance to go in there and start, because we're all starting together as part of the challenge, but you'll get access to all the other training programs. The community tab, which has been amazing. There's so many people in there sharing their progress pictures, asking questions, sharing really cool takeaways from like the podcast episodes to the newsletters to stuff that like MDV and everyone else is putting out on social. Like, it's just become such a cool place to interact that alone, I think, is so worth being a part of. Obviously, the training programs, the challenge are all incredible value adds. And then once you're in there, you are going to want to register in the app for the challenge, even though it's free. The reason you're going to want to do that is so that A, you get access to the meal plan and grocery shopping list that we're providing you. Again, that's just, if you want all the guesswork taken out of it, we've literally supplied you with like, take this list to the grocery store, buy these exact things, follow this meal plan, and you will hit what is a ballpark macros that like you can't fail. Macros is like one of those things where you can get super in the weeds and get super exact numbers, like what's your body weight, what's your activity level, and we can like really dial it in. But I think that for most people, you just need like a ballpark number, and you need to be consistent more than anything. And that's what that tool provides you, with a couple of like specific avatars that you can kind of be like, all right, I'm closest to this one, so this is what I should follow. So we made that as simple as possible. So register in the app for the actual challenge, so you get access to those things. And last thing, so that it prompts you to take a before progress picture, and then it will prompt you to take an after progress picture. Even though we always preach that weekly progress pictures are an incredibly important accountability tool if you're on the app, period, this will be a really cool way to like absolutely remind you to at least do this before and after. Because again, the rules of the challenge might seem super simple. It might seem like, is this really going to move the needle that much? But I promise you, if you stay consistent for those 45 days, and then afterwards you look at, this is how I look like day 0, this is how I look like day 45, you are going to be blown away, even if the scale itself doesn't change that much. So those are just a couple of quick housekeeping reminders on actually signing up and how the challenge is going to run. But MDV, where did you want to go from here? You were going to say something.
Yeah, we were going to get into a discussion of this idea of like over-sciencing your training, right? And we just talked about, keeping things very simple and consistent. And, I think I've struggled with this for a while in the fitness space, because there's an overabundance of information, right? There's always something new, some new study, some new training protocol, some new word to define some style of training that you might have thought of in the past. And now it's called this over here. And is it different? Like, you have to do it fucking different. Like zone 2 versus just going out for a run at an easy pace versus, all these types of things that I think can get super complicated and overwhelming. And I'm somebody who's been in the space for a very, very long time. And the more that I learn about myself in particular, this is very kind of particular to me, but the more that I learn about myself and my fitness journey, the more I just want to keep things simple, high quality, and intentional. And those 3 parameters for me are really important, not only in my fitness inputs, but my nutrition inputs, my professional life, my personal life, my relationships. It all boils down to simple, high quality, and intentional. And, Gabe and I were going back and forth a little bit, because I am going to try to get 6,000 meters in 10 minutes on the bike. I'm going to try. It's going to be really, really difficult, because I've seen a couple of people try to get close, and it looks horrible. But we were talking about like, what kind of training would you need to do to get there? And right now what I'm doing is I'm just exposing myself to different time domains at different paces. And I've done a little bit of research to check out like, what would my pace need to be to get there for 6,000 meters across these 10 minutes. But I'm not really following like it's a formal training plan to get there. I'm just getting exposure on the bike in some short time domains with some really explosive bursts. I'm trying to get some of the moderate range, kind of like middle of the road. This is difficult, but I can sustain. And then I'm going longer, low, and slow a little bit on the bike. And I'm hoping that three-pronged approach is going to get me closer to that number. But I'm not an over science guy. I'm more of like a very, as simple as I can make this, make it simpler for me.
I think that a lot of this just falls down to like different personality types. And we've talked about this a lot for sure.
Specificity of your goal.
For me, it always just, so two things. One, I was just kind of giving you a hard time, but two, I do think that this is like a very common, like Jason drove me nuts because he was making this exact mistake when we were literally training for like trying to do our best at High Rocks. And he was actually specifically training for his mile time because he wanted to break a 6-minute mile. And he would ask me for advice and I would give him advice and he still wouldn't follow it. But like a lot of this to me just comes down to, in my mind, if I'm like, hey, I want to get 6K on this 10-minute bike test, that to me is a very specific goal. And it seems like for me, it's just, why would I do it without a very specific plan? Because the nice thing about tests like that and why I really enjoy like endurance stuff is that it's just like a math equation. Like it's very, and that to me is like the fun part about training for it and the fun part about like trying to get that goal, because it's literally aerobic capacity is like your floor, like lactate threshold is your ceiling, and you're trying to like move both of those up because you're going to live somewhere in the middle depending on like the distance that you're training for. And there's like very specific ways to do that, especially if you know precisely what your goal is, whether that's a 3-hour marathon or 6K for 10 minutes on the bike. Like you literally have the very precise end state that you want to get to. So there's a very precise plan that will get you there. So if that's something that you're trying to do, at least to me, if that's something I was trying to do, I feel like I'm just making my life more difficult by doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that, when I can literally just math out like, okay, what is the area that I need to improve the most? Is it my aerobic capacity? Is it my lactate threshold? And then let me do that with a very structured progression over 4, 5, 6 weeks when I'm planning to retest it that clearly has like a build. Use like the last week. Like the other thing, and this goes to like the common mistake I think a lot of people do with endurance specific stuff when they want to like say break a 6-minute mile or whatever, is what they start doing is just start doing work at the goal pace that they're trying to get to. And that's like just not the way to do it. You should do all of your training, most of your training, either slower than that and longer, or faster than that and a lot shorter.
For sure.
And then really the only time where you should do specific work at race pace is like the week before as like a pure like mental confidence boost. Like the week before I would retest the 10 minutes, I would want to do some intervals at, the 142 pace that I'm going to need for 6K to just feel it and hopefully feel confident where I'm like, hey, 3 minutes of that didn't feel bad. Like I know that if I really double down, I can do that for 10 minutes. Like that's the only time where that pace actually serves like a purpose. Before that, it should be shorter intervals at a much faster pace or just much longer time at a much slower pace.
Yeah.
So going back to
I completely understand that.
And going back to the
like,
example with Jason, like I remember that Jason would start running to get better at running, and he was just going out and like trying to like go faster every single time. It's like, Jay, no, like once a week, just go out and do like 40, 60 minutes, like nice and slow. Don't worry about it. And then like, here's some intervals to run like once a week and then do some stuff in the middle. Like it wasn't even like super specific or super structured, but I know that, Jason's not unique. And a lot of people, it's like, I want to break 6-minute mile. So I'm just going to go out there and do as much as I can, averaging 130 per 400. I'm going to do 400s at that pace. I'm going to do 800s at that pace. And it's like, that's not really how it works. Or eventually it could work, but you're just making it harder on yourself, which to me, just like, I don't know, just breaks my brain a little bit.
So I understand all of that. And I agree. I agree. I just don't really care that much about whether or not I get 6K. I want to do it just to see if I can do it, but it's not like I'm putting it on a pedestal and being like, oh, I have to do this. Or it's like I'm signing up for a High Rocks race, or I'm going to do this once or twice more to see if I have the capacity to do it with a reasonable amount of like exposure on the bike. It's not like it's a huge goal for me. My fitness goals are very simple. I want to look really good naked. I know it's vain, but who fucking doesn't want to look good when they have their shirt off or, with their partner or whatever? That's one of them for sure. I want my body to feel good. I don't want to be in pain all the time. And I want to be generally athletic, and I want to be able to do a lot of different things and do them reasonably well. Those are like my fitness goals. I don't really have these like very specific end states that I want to get to. And it works for me because like I have other stress in my life around other goals, whether it's financial, relational, familial, that I'm focusing more on, that I want to be more intentional about. And I am very intentional about my fitness, but I'm intentional in a way that like I understand what I need to do with the inputs to create that kind of output. Could I get there much more efficiently to a certain type of look or aesthetic, or just like 6K meters on the bike? Probably, but it would also stress me out. And I wouldn't want to be like, oh, today I have to do, like, it's written down on this thing, I got to do these movements. And if I don't do them, I'm going to feel bad. I just don't work that well that way, especially with fitness in particular.
Yeah.
And I think also, I mean, of course, yes, it depends on what it is you're trying to accomplish, how committed you are to accomplishing that thing. And it depends on personality types. But I'd be curious, like, if you took Gabe's approach to like sciencing it down, making it mathematical and formulaic, and like, this is how you're going to achieve this specific thing by doing these specific workouts over the course of this period of time. Or like the MDV approach of like, I'm just going to sort of like willy-nilly it, and I'm going to get on there and like, I'll do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, because a long one, short one, fast one, slow one, every once in a while based on how I feel. Or if like you took a third approach of, I'm going to get on the bike once a week and I'm going to do 6,000 meters, or I'm going to do the 10-minute test and just try to do more than I did last time.
Dude, like, I think that's an effective strategy.
I think that all three of those approaches would work for certain people better than the other. Right? There's no absolute definite way to do it. It's all
100%.
based around, I mean, not to beat a dead horse, but it's based around personality type for sure. But like the human body and people, we're so complex to think that we can like boil our performance down to statistics and numbers and formulas and percentages. And yeah, I mean, like over the course of a really long term, a long period of time, that stuff is really useful in terms of just creating structure and having some sort of framework to guide your training. But from one day to the next, you just don't know how people are going to respond, react to it. Like that structure is only useful in so much as it gives you something to revise and adjust as needed, I think. Like if you write out, if you created a spreadsheet for him to follow for the next 8 weeks,
I'm done already, dude.
That's what I'm saying. Like
I'm already done. Spreadsheet, I'm out.
The usefulness of that is going to be in the ability to adjust it as needed. And so you can see the utility of both sides of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key difference is what MDB said, where like going in there with like a specific plan and a specific goal for that day is stressful. It's just for me, not having that is stressful. Like, what am I doing here? What's the intention today? Like, what piece of the puzzle is this fitting in for this thing that it's not that it's on a pedestal. It's just that I said I want to accomplish it. Mm-hmm. So if I said I want to accomplish it in as least amount of time as possible so I can move on to the next thing I want to accomplish. So to me, the stress is like
accomplishments either, you know, like that. I don't have that like next thing that I want to accomplish. It's much more like a lifelong journey for me right now.
Sure. I mean, I wouldn't say that I necessarily do either, but I know that I'm always going to be pursuing something, and the excitement of having something new is what just like reignites a fire to try something else, to go outside my comfort zone, to train hard again. I mean, it's to an extent, I like chasing a thing to the point where it does kind of start feeling like a chore, and like I never want to get there. And I think that to never get there, I want to keep the amount of time that it takes to get there, like at least as short as like I can control it, because then it's like, all right, done. What's kind of the next thing? But again, that's just personality differences, but it really just comes down to like what stresses you is very different than what stresses me. And it's just avoiding that, because again, we all have plenty of stress outside of the gym. So I want my training to be something that I like genuinely enjoy, genuinely fires me up, genuinely just like motivates, and I leave feeling that much ready to tackle all the other things. I never want to leave the gym frustrated because I didn't hit a number or a percentage. And that's the thing too, like with age, like I've learned that like, yes, these plans and like all this like sciencing of training serves a purpose. But I have also gotten to the point where like, I don't live and die by like, did I make that or did I not? It's just, okay, that was the intention of today, fell short. Why did it fall short? What was kind of missing? What did I get wrong? Did I put this, a little too early? Do I need a deload? Like being able to step back and to Dennis's point, like use that to make adjustments. I just, again, feel like I wouldn't be able to as objectively know that those adjustments are even needed if I don't at least have like a blueprint that this is how things should be progressing. So how do I know that there's a red flag to address because they're not progressing in that way?
Yeah. Also, I think over sciencing also, though, it speaks like we're talking about a very specific example here, but it obviously extends out beyond that. And I think oftentimes it just results in as being a distraction for people to just focus on effort,
the wrong things.
Yeah. Like it serves as an excuse to not work hard, or it distracts them from paying attention to what's happening internally because they're focused on these external variables that are probably not going to have that big of an impact. So I mean, in an endurance example like this with a very specific goal, the argument can kind of go both ways like that. When you're just talking in general with respect to training, I think over sciencing is in general a bad thing, like a net negative for most people that are just looking for like general strength and fitness and capacity.
Yeah, most people just have to show up, right?
Yeah,
like, I mean,
right.
that's
show up and work hard.
Most people just have to be consistent, just not burn out after 3 weeks.
Right.
Just show up and do something. And that's what I love about the Train Hard app, man. It's like there's so many opportunities to just show up and do a workout, whether or not you want to be on a plan like Gabe is on. And obviously, Gabe's physical transformation from 2 years ago is fucking so impressive, dude. Dude looks like he's carved out of stone right now, which is amazing. But if you want to just show up and do something where you're like, man, I just want to be well-rounded, the Train Hard Daily is a fantastic program to do that as well. And we've got plans for other programs, one that's a little bit more akin to the way I train. And I think, over time, we're going to have a really well-rounded offering for just men out there who want to get into the gym and do something. And doing something is always better than doing nothing, hands down.
100%. And, the over sciencing thing too is like so prevalent in like the hypertrophy bodybuilding scene, like so much. And I genuinely enjoy like, listening into like the drama between like the battling sides. It's pretty fun to like hear the arguments, but that's the perfect example because so many people are fixated on like strict reps versus like cheat reps and like RIR 3 versus RIR 1, but like they won't stick to any program consistently for 6 weeks or 8 weeks. And they're upset about their plateaus, but they're really focused about like, whether it's neutral grip or like semi-supinated grip for like this one movement. And it's like, all right, you're worrying about the wrong things.
There's great like memes. I'm sure you've seen them of like lateral raises in the 2020s. And it's like dudes like using 15-pound dumbbells, like doing them super strict. And then it's like lateral raises back in the 90s. And it's like Jay Cutler just like hammering 70-pound dumbbells, like using his entire body. Yeah.
Jay Cutler, holy shit, he's a big man.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Huge.
But I mean that, it captures the point, right? Like less worry about like what fibers am I targeting by using these specific angles and like just get the shit done sometimes.
Oh, dude. I remember the first time that we watched Pumping Iron at CrossFit Garden City on that one Sunday. What a fascinating movie. Have you watched Pumping Iron, MDV? Yes.
Not in a long time, but I've seen it. It's the Arnold.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
That world is just fantastic. And that portrayal of that world is so entertaining and so just like, there's so many scenes in there, like when Lou Ferrigno's getting like berated by his dad in the basement.
Yeah. At the dinner table, eating spaghetti.
Oh my God. So good.
Oh, and then it's a great movie.
The other scene that I remember too is, Arnold's training with that one guy, I forget his name, the guy with the mustache. He's doing the back squats barefoot at the Gold's Gym in Venice Beach. And is like, he's dying. He's like 15 sets in, like 3 plates on the bar, back squat, probably more than 3 plates. And then he's like 15 reps in and Arnold's like, all right, let's get serious.
Yeah, let's get serious. Yeah, let's get, yeah. The guy looks like he's ready to vomit and shit his pants. And he's like, all right, let's get serious. Makes him do like 12 more.
Just magnificent. Can you imagine just like the training scene back then? Dude.
In the 70s?
Awesome. Yeah, 70s. Yeah.
And just being
late
like,
70s, 80s.
and just being surrounded by like just a group of guys like chasing the very, very same myopic goal. Just like you can't put that into a pre-workout. You can't put that into anything, man. Like just training around people that are that focused on the same thing you're focused on. It's one of the biggest challenges of like training alone sometimes. But
what was great, and to speak to like the over-sciencing, I mean, there was no science back then to support anything that they were trying to do.
What were they doing?
They were the scientists. I mean, they were just figuring shit out as they went, and they were guinea pigs in their own little laboratory. And I mean, you can't argue with the results. I mean, the physiques on those guys still stand up to, they're not as freakish as far as the size, but the aesthetics and the development, considering the lack of performance enhancers that they had access to relative to people now is pretty remarkable.
But they still had access to performance enhans.
I'm not saying, of course, but not
still drilling their veins. But
they weren't stacking shit like these guys nowadays, though.
Oh, for sure. The access to performance enhancing drugs these days is much easier, I would imagine, as well.
Dude, the access to, I mean, man, like this TRT stuff is going to be interesting to see the impact of, because, and we've talked about this on the podcast with several guests, me and Jason have, like, there's such a important time and a place for a lot of people. And I think that it's great that there's now an opportunity to, like, whether it's optimize or however people got there, the hormonal health thing, I think, is a very black and white, like, downstream effect of just a lot of things that have been going on for years now. But on the flip side of that, wherever there's money to be made, there's just so many of these companies popping off where, it's like
boutique medicine.
It's you get on a quick Zoom and you have a prescription for something that I don't think a lot of specifically young men like really understand the pros and cons of some of this stuff. And this has been talked about on podcasts, so it's nothing new, but there's a lot that goes into like fertility too with that. And if you're super young and you're going all in on this, not with a, doctor that's like really talking to you about like how to do it and how to do it right. You're just like, going on TRT, even though you're doing it more for performance enhancing than any actual like need to replace something that's actually very low. What are going to be the downstream effects of that is something I think we're going to see in like 10, 15 years. And I hope it's not as bad as it seems it might be. So, but it's definitely used a lot. Like,
yeah, and I think the same thing is going to be true with a lot of the GLP-1 stuff. And it's kind of the wild west right now in terms of peptides and hormonal health and all that kind of stuff. Not really street legal in a lot of senses, but like you can pick up these things fairly easily from many websites or many types of businesses and experiment with them on your own or with the help of whoever represents that company. And there's a lot of really good that comes out of it too. This is not like an all bad conversation. There's obviously a need for this kind of thing for individuals, whether or not they're suffering from any sort of a hormonal deficiency or whether or not they're suffering from any sort of like major, need to lose weight or to optimize their testosterone. And there's a lot of good benefits that come from it, but there's also, it's very easy to get into it without the education that you might want to have, especially if you're a younger individual getting into it.
Yeah. I mean, this is literally a question that came in through the info inbox just the other day. And I mean, I don't know anything about the person who sent it, but it sounds like someone pretty young. But I mean, there's even like this question makes me think about like the onus on us with a platform and a podcast where we have had guests that have talked about this stuff and like what onus is on us to also educate on the flip side of it, because someone emailed in, it's like, listen to podcasts a while. And even before I was interested in figuring out my hormone levels. Y'all have talked a lot about, and I've learned a lot through you guys. My question pertains to CrossFit rules regarding supplemental testosterone. I've been working out with a goal towards being competitive at the highest level I can. That's what makes me think that it's someone relatively young. And I don't want to ruin all that work by doing something that gets me banned. If that's something y'all can cover on the podcast, that would be awesome. So the fact that even that question came in, like, there's young people out there that are like, hey man, like this sounds like a good idea, like get stronger, like, boost my hormone levels, and not even knowing that like, is this something that's going to get me? Like, it just seems like the the flip side of things are things that like, I don't know, is it our responsibility to like also educate on that side? Because
it's
we
not
seem
our
to be
responsibility to educate on the rules of CrossFit for sure.
Sure.
You have to know the rules of the game that you play in.
But not even the rules, but so much like that email to me also, again, making assumptions seems like we've portrayed that this is like a positive thing and maybe not done as good of a job as like, what can potentially be the downsides. But I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it just seems like this is happening a lot more because also you think about our platform and the audience that we have. And then you think about some of these other platforms that talk about this stuff a lot and the audiences that they have. And then you start thinking about that impact. And it's like, how many young guys out there are just listening to this stuff and being like, this sounds like something I should give it, try out. Like, I want to feel good. I want to, optimize my hormone levels. Nothing bad. There's nothing negative about the phrase. Like, I want to optimize my hormone levels. Like, who doesn't want to be optimized? But, what really kind of goes into that.
It's getting trickier and trickier to decipher like who's actually well-versed in this stuff and providing objective information that doesn't have some sort of
vested interest
or incentive to sell you something. I mean, some of these people that are selling the stuff, they come off as though they're really well versed in it and experts, and they have everyone's best interest in mind. But at the end of the day, if you're making a buck off of somebody buying it, like that's going to influence how you view everything, how you portray everything. It's going to prevent you from looking at it objectively. I mean, it's like MDV said, it's the Wild West. It's all that stuff is just, I don't know. It scares me.
Peptides and hormones are definitely the Wild West. But like, let me just use this as an opportunity for a PSA here on this podcast. And Joe Rogan is big on this all the time too. He's like, if you're getting your information directly from me, like you're an idiot. Like go out there.
We're three Long Island scumbags, just to be clear.
Yeah. Go and like research this stuff on your own before going out there and just following what somebody on a podcast said. Like, there's so much access to information. Download ChatGPT, put it into ChatGPT, figure out what ChatGPT says, and then go and look at some of those core resources and make your decisions on the pros and the cons of this stuff. And that comes down to not only like things that are medicinal and hormonal, but also fitness, nutrition, lifestyle choices, whether or not you want to do 100 push-ups a day or not. Like all these things, man, like do your own research, figure out what works for you, pull the stuff in that's meaningful for you, that fits into your life, and then like cut the stuff out that doesn't. And if it brings you closer to your goal and you feel good doing it and you're not hurting anybody else, continue to do it, but monitor along the way. It's like, don't just listen to any buffoon on a podcast and then go out there and start like injecting yourself with X, Y, or Z, whether that's, injecting yourself with Oreos or injecting yourself with hormones.
Man, I hope that makes the clip. That was it right there. Just 3 Long Island scumbags.
Oh God. Jason's going to be like, what did you guys talk about?
On that note, this has been fun. This has been a good
super
one.
fun.
Right. I'm sure we'll have Jason back next week. Again,
challenge.
Guys, thank you so much for listening. Really pumped to have MDV and Dennis here for the Long Island Crew, this home team episode. Again, guys, just a quick reminder, if you haven't already, please make sure sign up for the Train Hard app. You can sign up for a 7-day free trial. You can register for the challenge. Check it out. Check out the first week content. Like, you have nothing to lose. Just go on there. You're on a 7-day trial. Register. Take your before picture. If like 7 days in, you're like, hey, this is just not my vibe, not what I want to do, you can always cancel. There's like absolutely no risk. Just go do it. I promise that like 7 days in, you'll be hooked. You'll be like, I should do this through June 15th. So just go do it. Link in the show notes. And obviously, if you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with a friend, share it with anyone, leave us a rating, a review, and we'll see you guys next time for another home team episode with the crew. Thank you guys.